just like that, it goes from doom and gloom to a freaking snowy morning into snowy afternoon, to get almost half a rhyme out of that. But no, this is nice. I prefer this so much more than just cold and gray, right? Cold and white, cold and snowy. That's cool. That's a little bit cooler. It actually it's like it looks the part, if you kind of catch what I'm saying. But plan for this morning lift is going to be arms followed by 30 minutes of cardio, which is I'm going to say that a lot. So almost twice a week. Let's say 1.8 times a week ish is how frequently I hit a muscle group. So it's going to be another about 13, 14 weeks, or no, 12, 13 weeks. Okay, yeah, so I'm going to say that about 20 more times. It's about 20 more arm workouts until competition season. Now, what am I going to do during all those workouts? I'm sure it will change on a lift-to-lift basis. But for today, I'm not sure. I'm not completely 100% sure. I think I might use today, I don't know. Because here's my dilemma, right? Here's my problem. I'm like, okay, do I want to do tries and buys back and forth, superset style? Do I want to do all tries, all buys, straight up one after the other? All buys, all tries, so buys are first. There's I got a lot of choices here. But either way, I'm sure I'll think about it. Because what I want to do is end the lift fully pumped. I want to end the lift with arms that are as pumped as they can get. I might have a measuring tape at the gym. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, I want the end of the workout to have my arms as big as possible. So sometimes that means doing a little bit more back and forth work so that they're both fully pumped at the same time. When I'm bulked up, doesn't even matter. All tries, then all buys, because my triceps stay pumped throughout the entire bicep portion because I'm so full of carbs and glycogen and everything else that the pump doesn't fade. That's one downside of dieting. Something I don't really hear people talk about as much, but it's still just as true, is the pump is fleeting. When you're flat, when you're low on carbs, the pump is much more fleeting, which is it's just how it is. You gotta be able to handle that. So what that tells me is I want to enjoy it while I have it, and I want to make sure that all the sets that go into it are as good as I can make them, so that I'm as pumped as I can be. Right? Especially since it's kind of like a crunch. In an off season, I feel like you could almost do a random scrappy workout and still get a really good pump, just because you're so full of carbs and glycogen, like anything's going to work. But when you're dieted down, you've got to be a little bit more selective. Like I almost think like a bulking workout is everything's going to work. Whatever you hit, you're probably going to end up getting pumped. You're cool. But a dieting workout is a little more like you're picking a lock. I want to make sure all the movements that I do feel and consequently actually do add up to a really good workout. Because I'll do some sets where, sometimes I don't show it, but let's say I do push downs. Maybe I'm going to grab the 2 extra long D handles, do a feeler rep or 2 and say, this sucks. I'm done with this. I'm putting this thing freaking down, and that'll be the end of it. But we'll see. I'm sure I keep having this like back and forth, like, okay, am I going to do this, or this? Once I actually get started, I almost always do the same thing. Just 3 sets of push downs, 3 sets of curls, 2 sets of push downs, 2 sets of curls, 1 push down, 1 curl, and then a superset if necessary. That's a pretty solid basis, because then it's a little bit of the best of both worlds. I get some very dedicated tricep work, then some really specific bicep work. Back and forth, you finish completely pumped. That's something I could recommend, But it's up to you, the person who takes that recommendation, and plug in your own movements that would feel good. Maybe for you love skull crushers. You can really feel it. Your mind's in the muscle. You're freaking flexing your tricep at the top of every single one. Well, then do overhead skull crushers. For me, that might feel a little bit tender on my elbows, But you know, that's where you gotta apply your lifter brain one step more than everybody else. And instead of just doing, you know, a workout because you saw it written out, you kind of come up with your own versions of things that are kind of more catered to your needs. You know, it's like getting a suit off the rack versus going in and getting measured and having it tailored specifically to you, right? It's just going to be a better fit. So I think nothing else to discuss there. How about we just stop talking about it and freaking pull up? So I'm sure I'm going to pass by, I don't know, it's more daytime now. Most of the snow is already melted from the trucks. But first snow of the season typically sends people off the road. Typically sends people off the road pretty freaking bad. So if you're currently spun out, which is not impossible, you know, if you're up in the Northeast, don't let it mess with your pump. Right? Don't let it throw your pump off. Right? Figure it out. You know, pull a Dorian Yates and chudge your way through the snow. Or if you have a home gym, then you're totally good and just stay there. But yeah, nothing else to say. Let's get this lift started. All right, change of plans. Instead of 3, 3, 2, 2, 1, 1, and then a superset, I think today I want to just go back and forth. One set of pushdowns, one set of curls, like that. So not supersetted exactly, because I'm gonna actually sit for, you know, a minute-ish before the next set of curls. So a little faster pace, because in a way, as I'm doing my curls, that's kind of rest for my triceps because they're not getting worked. Like, sure, I'm still kind of breathing a little extra heavy from the set, but I can come back pretty quick to a push down. So just a little bit faster paced. Like, I don't have a timer going. Actually, you know, maybe I should. So this will be set number 1. And I mean, 6 sets of each. I doubt this will take 30 minutes. I'm not trying to crunch it down. I'm just, you know, we'll get into that in a little bit. But all right, there we go. Starting now, let's see how long this lift takes. Not too heavy here. Squeezing, burning. Okay. These curls are freaking perfect. So I'm gonna grab the 50s because I'm feeling pretty strong because it's the first set. I'm not like worn out yet, but I mean, this is pretty much everything I want in a curl. Huge stretch at the bottom because I'm not just here. Since I'm leaning back, it's more like back here. So if I keep my hands turned upward, I mean, there's no forearm at all. It's like all bicep, really good squeeze on the top. And honestly, it's pretty balanced, heavy the whole way through. I mean, it's hard to beat. Out of everything, I mean, not that there aren't others, but this is a very complete curl. So let's get real. Okay. 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 Holy crap. That was good. Let's run those two back one more time, and then I think move on to a new pair. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay, yeah. Back to that curl. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Oh my god. Oh shit. Okay. Actually, one more of these curls. I'm gonna do a different tricep movement, but I think 3 of these will feel better than 2. So let's go move on. I was gonna do overhead tricep extensions with the easy bar. So put this at like shoulder height. Put one side of your butt up against the cable and then lean over like this. Super stable movement, but it just kind of fell to my elbows a little bit. So instead, let's just do a basic heavy push down, kind of pumpish, until I can't really do any reasonable reps. Okay. Oh, okay. Actually, shit, you know what? One more curl. Okay. Oh, okay, that's enough of that. Oh, okay. Let me do a different push down too. That one didn't really feel awesome. But we're getting there. All right, this will be a good change up. Still heavy, but there we go. All right, this will be a little better than that cable. This has just a different movement path. Just a little more interesting. But I'm gonna hold the squeeze at the bottom, just like with the rope, for the first 10 or as many as I can, and then burn out. So not just a full-on like heavy brutish set. All right. Do. Okay. Ooh, okay. All right. I got a plan. I got a plan for how to end this one, I think. All right. Let's just do the set first and then decide. But this is going to be 40-pound standing curls with a twist. And not just a twist in the curl. First phase of the set is going to be 50% pause reps, or whatever you want to call it, and then just as many burnouts as possible. So the first half, or the first whatever, no swinging, like I'm really not trying to wrench anything here, gets halfway up, have my hand, all the way turned, or at least as much as I can, stop, just for a moment, just to kill the momentum, and then finish the rep. So I like these with hamstrings a lot too. Not as much with everything else. Sometimes back, I could kind of feel a little. But with these curls, if you don't have an awesome time like pulling with your bicep and you feel like you're pulling with your hand, I think these will help. Even just as like a practice thing in your warm up. Because if you get it moving, I mean at the bottom, like if I'm right here, this curling action is a lot of forearm. Like this big nub of stuff, that's doing some curling help. So if I sit here and I get it moving, well then my forearm's doing it, then I kind of swing a little, and now it's like, what am I doing? So by killing the momentum halfway up with your arm, your hand turned upward, well now only one thing is going to get it moving again, and that's firing your bicep. So it's just different. I barely ever see anybody do this. Not like it's, not like nobody could imagine it. I think it's just kind of slept on. So next time you're doing bis, I would recommend trying one of these. And if you don't like it, whatever. You learn something. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Holy shit. Okay. Let's do one more tricep finisher, and that'll be all. We can pose down. Here's the plan. So this will be the last tricep set. So I'm going to pre-exhaust with light-ish single arm pushdowns. So 5 with one side, 5 with the other. Repeat. Really squeeze hard at the bottom, and then burn out with heavy pushdowns behind me. That combo should be sweet. Then we can find some lighting and see how we're freaking looking. Okay, that's all. Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. Let's find some lighting. All done. Okay. That was pretty good. So, my forearms feel decently veiny and interesting looking. which is what I want to freaking see. So let's just see how the overall kind of pump added up to. Oh my goodness. Whew. I guess we can start with the backside. The heck was that? Oh my gosh. That was definitely a nutty Arnold pose. But I'm gonna go get up on the bike, finish my 30 minutes, then we can get in the car and freaking discuss. Alright, I forgot about the timer until I had finished the pose down. So what, that was maybe like 2 minutes plus another 2 minutes of like that last set, so just sitting there with the camera. So the timer read 32 minutes. Full-on arm workout. I think it was 6 sets of push-downs and curls. 32 minutes. Which, yeah, you know, I'm not one to say there's a specific time limit. This is kind of a classic thing I'll hear guys go into. They're like, if you're in the gym for longer than 2 hours, you're not even training. Or if you're in the gym for more than 45 minutes, you're not even training. You know, I assume that's how the guy sounds when he comments that. And it's not a time thing. You know, I think it's a goal achievement thing, you know. So if you go into a class and you take a test and you're done first, well, you don't get any extra points for taking longer to achieve the correct results, all right, to, you know, write down the right things. So when it comes to the lifts, I'm not one to think I need to do 8 sets or 10 sets or X number of sets and then the workout is over. You know, I did think like that for a little while. So, you know, when I started, my approach was I'm doing 5 movements and I'm going to do 5 sets each for every body part. So I used to do an arm day that was 4 times, a little bit more than 4 times the amount of volume that I just did today. Instead of 6 sets of pushdowns and curls, it was 25 sets of pushdowns and 25 sets of curls. That was my number. And having a number isn't a bad approach, because in my mind I'm like, all right, I can hit this number. It does guarantee that you do a certain amount of workload in the lift. So, I mean, it's not a bad approach. But I think to improve upon that 25, gradually bringing that down to where it is now, excuse me, you know, a little more in the upper single digits, I think is about right. It was very hard for me to go from 25 sets of workout to 11, because in my mind, especially beginner, I'm like, I want to do more than everybody else. I want to do more work. I want to do more sets. And I did get the benefit of a lot of experience by doing a ton of sets really early. So I don't look back on my early training with any regret at all. It's just how it was. So to go from 25 to 11 was kind of hard, because in my mind, I'm like, man, that's less than half of what I normally do. I can do more. But the point isn't doing more, it's doing better, I think. So after going from 25 to 11, eventually I brought it down from 11 to 8. And when I was doing 11 and 8, my mindset was, I've only got 11 sets. I'm going to make every single one of them count. Same thing when I moved down to 8 a little bit. I've only got 8 sets. I'm going to make each of these 8 freaking count. So if you like that approach and that like helps you get excited, well then pick a number. Honestly, 8, pretty decent. I think 8 all around experienced bodybuilder, beginner guy, if you have a chest day and it's made up of 8 really good sets, odds are you probably got pumped. As long as you did a variety, maybe some heavy ones, some light squeezing ones, some burning ones, I think you probably had a pretty stimulating lift. So I think 8's a pretty solid number. If I had to recommend one number forever for everyone, bulked, diet, whatever, I'd probably say 8. 8's got to be my freaking lucky number there. When I bulk up, I do a bit more volume than now. That's why I'm more like at a 6. Not to say 6, 7, but 6 or 7 sets ish is usually about my sweet spot. But now what my approach is okay, I want to totally stimulate whatever muscles that I'm hitting, either for the purpose of maintenance, like right now, I want my arms to stay the same size as I get leaner rather than shrink. That's kind of the whole point of the workouts, to stay big, to stay strong, not to lose mass. Or if I'm trying to bulk up, well, then I want to really freaking get in there, stimulate new growth, and then when I rest, eat all my food, get a freaking crap ton of sleep, they'll grow. And in either case, by the time I'm pretty pumped, and by the time I know that I've kind of done enough, which is still around that 8, 7 range, well, then I'm good, But that's a little bit of a preference thing. Because if you like the idea of having one specific number and holding yourself to that number, well, then that's not a bad approach either. Because then, maybe if you're not really feeling it, that's a good kind of like self-rule where you're not going to cut it short. You say, man, fuck, I kind of feel like shit today, but I still got my 8. Let's go hit back. Right? Those are the kind of more important character developing lifts. The easy ones are fun, but they don't really change how you are as a guy. It's the ones where you're feeling a little, you got a challenge, And speaking of challenge, I meant to say this on the drive to the gym, but then I kind of forgot about it. But I feel like I've got to reiterate my stance on, on the bulking, cutting methodology, reasoning, and, should you only main gain? Is a bulk a complete waste of time? And I tell you this, man, are you getting the results that you want? Is the person who we're kind of talking about making the progress that they really want? And if that's the case, well, then no preference or opinion that I have matters, because they're doing what they want to do, truly, right? But I think there's a lot of people who aren't getting the results that they want. And it could be for a number of reasons, I think the people who aren't as lean as they want to be, which is a pretty classic situation, they just don't want to deal with it. Either they just don't want to go down the rabbit hole of learning about dieting and like how to eat right, or they just have this mental image of how hard it's going to be to do, and they don't even want to deal with it. They're just like, screw it, whatever. They might try to diet one time or one day, sick of it, New Year's, all right, I'm going to do it, and then they give up. That's pretty classic. That happens a lot. But when it comes to gaining size, this is a nuanced point. There is no one rule for everyone, right? I said my thing about getting up to 200 pounds. What if you're a shorter dude? Well, then 200 isn't the number. Or what if you're a pretty tall dude? Well, then you could be 200 just walking around. There's no cut and dry rule about it. But the way that I look at it, I think a good approach, let's take the average guy. Let's just take a dude, maybe 15% body fat, not super jacked, but, not like heavy either. Just kind of, normal. Like he's not lifting yet, but he's thinking about it. What would I say a good approach would be? Should he instant bulk? Should he try to diet down and get like that David Lade sort of broader, lanky kind of build? What makes the most sense? And I'd say a bulk is not going to be so necessary, right? Like you don't need to jump straight into a crazy bazillion amount of calories. Honestly, main gaining is totally solid. So what I mean by that is train a ton. Honestly, for the beginner, as close to every day as you can. I'd probably recommend you get more training experience. Your body is going to adapt to training faster, I feel, and you're building up a core principle of consistency right off the get-go. So if that's 6 days a week and you take a Saturday off every time, or even a 5-day week, as close as you can get. And then when it comes to diet, I think this is a classic. I'm either going all in or I'm doing nothing. Don't overwhelm yourself. Don't think that you need to track every gram of everything instantly. I think that's a good end goal scenario, but you don't have to do it right from the beginning. I only tracked one macro when I started working out, and that was protein. I made sure I got 2 grams of protein per pound of body weight. Like for the first couple of years I was working out, I was eating like 300 grams of protein a day, which definitely didn't hurt. I don't know if it helped a ton. I still think a gram per pound is about the sweet spot. Any more probably won't help you. Any less isn't going to be more efficient or anything. Like, I think a gram per pound is a good rule. So if you train consistently every week, hard, like you're not just goofing off, you really mean it, and you hit your protein, if somebody starts working out and that's their 2 core principles in the beginning, they come in on a weekly basis, no skipping for a few months, and they're hitting their protein, I don't think there's a better starting position. Because the more he gets into it, just naturally over time, he's going to get more curious about, okay, carbs and fats, and okay, and you just learn and you get more, not only your own personal experience, but just videos and information over time. And before you know it, dude, you're leveraging your diet towards your goals. And early, like if you're fresh into training, 6 months, a year, if you hit your protein and work out hard, you're going to grow. But where this situation comes to a turn is once that's no longer enough. I think if we took every regular looking dude, not saying that in a bad way or anything, who doesn't work out, and had them eat a gram of protein per pound of body weight and train consistently for 6 months, all of them would have massive improvements. Size, strength, depending on how crazy the guy is, probably some pretty serious strength gains. But if those are the only things that the guy does for a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years, eventually this is going to kind of come to a plateau, right? Gains are diminishing. You don't grow as fast over time. It kind of starts to gradually level off. So that's where I say, if you're not growing, you got to give yourself more fuel to grow. You don't need to get super fat in like a dirty bulk, because if you do, well, then you're screwing yourself, because you're not going to be able to diet back down later. I can say this on record, I've never said put on a crazy amount of body fat. A bulk should be enough to substantially induce growth, but within reason, because you got to diet that off later. That's kind of what you're signing up for. You're signing this lease with 0 down. You're eating a ton of food, you're growing, you feel like a beast, and then that monthly payment's going to come in. You got to diet back down to reveal those gains. So that's kind of the cost-based analysis. And if you're not cool with that, well, then obviously you're going to say, dude, screw bulking. But there really is no way past, I'd say probably around like a 180 lean, a 190 lean, depending on what the guy's appetite is, without leveraging your diet. If you're not eating a reasonable amount of protein-based meals, good solid amount of carbs, actually like eating for fuel to have really good workouts and to rest well and to recover well, and you're tracking your weight on the scale, then you're just going to get stuck, and I'm very passionate about this because I never want to be stuck. I never want to feel like I'm not making progress, and I know that a lot of people are like that because they're lifting, perfect. They're eating their protein, even better. And then leveraging everything else, getting on a really good schedule, really kind of, tracking all their calories so they know their carb intake and tracking their weight on the scale. That's where things start to fall off, because you look the part if you have a protein shake and then you come to the gym, but it's just a little bit more than that, So it's not so much that I'm saying everyone needs to bulk because I want everyone in the world to be huge. That's not exactly my motivation. It's more so the people who do want to bulk up. Like, I'm trying to talk to the guy who's maybe a little frustrated that the scale isn't moving. You've got weapons in your arsenal to fight that, right? slamming a freaking, 4 packs of oatmeal with half a pound of ground beef. Add some maple syrup on top if you got some room for some extra carbs. Things like that, But if you just want to stay a lean 170 or a lean 180, well, that's solid too, But don't forget, that's what you want to do. And if somebody else wants to bulk up, it's not so much that that they're saying that that's the best thing. It's just the best thing for them, So it's I think to call it a debate on whether you should bulk or whether you should just gain, that's not really a debate. We're not opposing views as though one is right and one is wrong. It's, more so just like the training. You should kind of look at your own situation and think, what do I want? And then act accordingly. There's no rules. There's no rules. There's no winners. There's no losers in working out. And there's just progress and non-progress, right? And I want to be on the progress side of things. That is for freaking sure. So we're getting close. We're getting close to what I'd call a little bit of a paradigm shift in terms of mentalities. I think this is, you tell me if you agree, but I feel like COVID 2023, 2024, what happened was nobody's really traveling. Nobody is, nobody's going out and partying. So I think a lot of people couldn't just post cool things. Like, I'm not saying like influence, I'm just saying like regular people. So I think it was motivated by like, okay, how can I be better than everybody else? Ooh, I'm gonna post myself working out and getting really serious. So there was like a COVID lock-in era where everybody, I feel like, was really seriously into the gym. Like just from TikTok videos and like Instagram reels and just what I kind of saw posted. And then now we're kind of on a little bit of a market correction, right? Because now COVID's done, but every winter, I feel like people get a little bit more serious. New Year's is coming. Eventually, spring break is coming. Summertime's coming. Like, that's always a classic kind of cue. Like, okay, let's get serious about the gym. Like, I wish I could know the membership rates and like the stats of like all gyms combined, because January spike, March, April spike, June, probably about May, June spike, August, all the college guys going back to school spike, probably things like that, So it's just the more you lift and the more that you stay in the gym and look around at what everybody else is doing, you get a gist for those kind of patterns. But I think we're going to get a little more locked in the next few weeks. It's going to be cold. Nobody's out having fun as much. It's time to get serious. But I don't know. Maybe not. I know I'm going to keep my workouts up like always, but I guess we'll just have to see. So it feels way better driving home with a snowy landscape. This is making me happy. But I'm gonna go eat some food, so I'll see you for a quad day tomorrow. Yeah, I always forget. I'm going back and forth between hamstrings and quads. Yeah, so tomorrow is quads. Let's, I guess we'll see just how kind of pumped up and veiny they can get since the last leg day, or the last quad day a week ago. Hamstrings was only a couple days ago. But either way, I'll see you then.